Hey there, STB sports fans. I'm Max, and today I'm here with my co-analyst Sam and our host Andrew, and we're going to be hitting you guys with our NFL Week 14 rundown. So we're going to give you guys game picks for every matchup this week, some fantasy analysis, and more. So without further ado, let's get into our first matchup.
All right, our first game is the 3-9 Dallas Cowboys at the 2-9-1 Cincinnati Bengals. Dallas favored by a field goal in this one. So, what do you guys have to say about it?
Yeah, so with this matchup, I would say that this game puts the Bengals tank in some serious jeopardy. Both these teams are terrible. They both struggle immensely on either side of the ball, offense and defense, and both teams are very poorly coached by Mike McCarthy and by Zach Taylor. So personally, I'm expecting a pretty ugly game here, going to be full of mistakes, lots of penalties, some wild plays. You never really know what you're going to get with these two teams that are both very badly coached and executed. In the end, I think quarterback experience and more talented weapons should help the Cowboys out a lot here. So I'm going to give them a slight edge over Cincinnati, but this game could get really crazy just because both these teams are so unpredictable and really, really bad.
Yeah, so fantasy-wise, surprisingly, both these defenses actually have value despite being some of the worst in the league. So make sure to look out for both the Cowboys defense, a little bit over than the Bengals defense, in my opinion. And then in terms of the Bengals offense, the only Bengals players that have any slight fantasy value are Tyler Boyd and Giovanni Bernard. So look out for them, especially Giovanni Bernard. He's going to get quite a bit of carries against a terrible Cowboys defensive line. And then for the Cowboys, Amari Cooper should have some value along with CeeDee Lamb. And then Ezekiel Elliott has some value, but he is nowhere near what he was at the beginning of the year.
He's also questionable in this one, so that's something to watch out for too.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our game picks. So I have the Cowboys winning 31-20.
Yeah, so in this one, I'm also going to take Dallas, and I'm going to go ahead and take them by 10, 24-14.
Yep, I think the Cowboys are bad, but I think the Bengals are worse. I have the Cowboys 20-14.
Yeah, that's an excellent analysis there, Andrew. All right, so here is our next game.
All right, our next game, the 4-8 Houston Texans at the 5-7 Chicago Bears, who are favored to lose by 2.
Yeah, so in terms of this matchup, both the teams are in dire need of a win. The Chicago Bears, who are still looking to make the playoffs, this is a big game for them. So they are actually not favored in this game, which is kind of surprising, but also not really, considering they haven't won a game since being 5-1. I believe they're 5-7 now, which is just horrible. But their offense does look a lot better with Trubisky under center, as he was a little bit more familiar with that system than Nick Foles. And then on the Texans, we have Deshaun Watson just putting the team on his back. You can just see this man is getting so frustrated by that whole team and the coaching and the system he's in. And if they don't win a few more games, he's going to want out this year. And then on the Bears, Matt Nagy's job is in jeopardy. If they don't win this game against a bad defense, and with them having a much better defense than the Texans, and they need to be able to shut down the Texans here. And if they don't win here, I think Matt Nagy he's out after losing 7 straight, I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if he loses this one, it would be 7 straight.
Yeah.
So that's pretty bad for the Bears. From a fantasy perspective, though, a little bit more positive. David Montgomery, the Chicago running back, he's been really, really remarkable lately. He's a must start in all formats for sure. He gets a ton of volume on that Chicago offense. Crazily enough, you probably want to avoid Chicago's defense. They were playing very well early in the year, but in like ESPN standard formats, that defense has actually lost you 6 fantasy points over the course of the last 2 games. So probably stay away from that Chicago D. Allen Robinson is a very good starting option as one of Chicago's very few relevant weapons. On the Houston side, Kiki Kuti and Brandon Cooks, if they play, they're both questionable. They could both be very interesting flex choices and have some pretty good upside as Will Fuller is still suspended for the Texans and they become Deshaun Watson's top targets. And the other thing we want to think about, I would still avoid Mitch Trubisky. He's projected pretty high by a lot of people fantasy-wise this week, but I think he's too mistake-prone to start for now.
Yeah, so my game pick for this week, I actually am going with the line. I'm going the Texans 27-17. I think Deshaun Watson is once again going to put this team on his back and give the Texans a win.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think Houston is definitely the better team right now. So I'm going to take them 21-13.
Yep. I'm taking the Texans 24-10. I have a question for you, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning of this game, you talked about the Bears looking for the playoffs. At this point, after 6 losses in a row, do you think that's even a possibility?
No, it's not a possibility, but I feel like the franchise, they're still looking like they're attempting to play in games. They're not starting to rest any starters or like if someone's injured, they're not keeping them out for the rest of the year and basically resting them and allowing them to recover from their injuries. It looks like they're still in full playoff pursuit, but they have no shot. Let's be honest. There's no way they're being past it. The top 6 are, in my opinion, are pretty much solidified, and then it's either going to be the Cardinals and the Vikings, or the Vikings in that last spot.
Gotcha.
All right. So for our next game.
All right. The next game is the 11-1 Kansas City Chiefs at the Miami Dolphins. Chiefs favored by a touchdown. So what do you guys have on it?
Yeah, so personally, I think this is going to be a very fun game to watch. Miami's very strong defense is going to look to hold down the Chiefs' just exceptional offense, very good offense, of course. Both these coaches I really like, Andy Reid and Brian Flores. They're both fantastic, and seeing them go head-to-head should be a pretty interesting chess match. Miami's offense, while not quite as potent, does not turn the ball over much. Tua has yet to throw a pick in his NFL career. But they're still going to have to be very careful because I think Kansas City might be second in the league in interceptions. Don't quote me on that. That said, Kansas City's defense can be very weak against the run, so maybe Miami could capitalize upon that. However, I literally just learned that Myles Gaskin has COVID, so he's probably not going to play in this one, meaning that Miami's backfield is very, very thin. So what I expect to see here is Miami to try to slow the pace of the game as much as possible, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, and use defense and special teams to really try and stay in this contest.
In terms of a fantasy standpoint, Kansas City, the usual suspects are always fantasy relevant. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, 3 of the best players at their positions, always going to have value. They should score decent amount of points this game, but watch out, the Dolphins defense has been pretty stingy this year, so they may not get their usual projections. And then, as you said, Myles Gaskin is now out with COVID, so he was going to be a running back 2 prospect, but now look out for Salvon Ahmed, I believe. I'm not sure if he's still is he still hurt, Max?
Yeah, he's actually going to be out still with a shoulder issue. So really the entire Dolphins backfield is hurt at this point.
Yeah, so they're going to be looking at their practice squad probably. So that might be actually a decent pickup if you'd like to do that, but only in larger leagues. And then Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker, those should have some value, especially Devontae Parker. He's been playing very, very well in the last few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with my game pick here. I'm going to follow the line exactly here. I'm taking Kansas City by 7, 28-21.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are good, but they're no match for Kansas City, the best team in the league in my opinion right now, and I think most of our opinions. I'm taking them 34-24.
Yep, I have the Chiefs at the top of our power rankings. Go check that video out, but I have the Chiefs winning 35-27.
All right.
The next game is the 6-6 Arizona Cardinals at the 5-7 New York Giants. Cardinals favored by 2.5. So what do you guys have?
So this game has substantial playoff implications, especially for the Giants. in my opinion, actually for both of them. The Cardinals are not even, I believe they are 8th in the NFC right now. So they're on the outside looking in as the Vikings jump them after their recent 5-game winning streak. And the Giants, they need to win this game in order to stay up atop the NFC East if the Washington football team were to win another game. So Arizona is sputtering while New York Giants have been great the last few games. Kyler Murray has played pretty poorly in the last few games. I think some of it is due to an injury. Some of it is due to that offense coached by Cliff Kingsbury. I think his coaching has been just subpar a little bit throughout the last few weeks. So the Giants are going to look to shut down that Cardinal offense, and then with that great defense. But they have some pieces out, especially the Blake Martinez, who was, I believe, questionable for this week. So that could hurt them a lot, as he, in my opinion, he's that leader of the defense. He's the heart and soul of the team. He leads the team in tackles, I believe. I think he might lead the league in tackles, actually. But he's been great for them all year. And then if Daniel Jones is back, that can give the Giants a little bit more weapons, as they won't have to rely on a quarterback that hasn't played in a few years in Colt McCoy.
Right, exactly. All right, so now for fantasy. For Kyler Murray, he's likely to face some trouble here again, I have to say. It's really hard not to start him in your lineup because he's, of course, been really good this whole year. But the matchup is less than ideal, and he's not really playing that well lately. However, DeAndre Hopkins is likely to put up some solid numbers as usual. And Kenyon Drake, if he plays, which I'm pretty sure he's going to, he's very capable of flex or running back 2 production. So definitely give him a look. On the Giants side, of course, Wayne Gallman, the running back that replaced Saquon, is looking really nice. Start him for sure. And, of course, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, if Daniel Jones plays, could be pretty solid flex options as well.
All
so,
right.
Sam, would you like to get into your game pick?
Yeah. So despite the line, I'm going to go against it. I'm taking the Giants in a defensive battle. I think the Giants are going to shut down the Cardinals this game. I'm going the Giants 20-14. I'm going with the hot team here.
Yeah, same exact thing for me. I'm picking the New York Football Giants by a field goal, 24-21.
Yep, I'm going against the line too. You see Andrew's upset of the week. I'm going Giants 21-17. All right, our next game, the 6-6 Minnesota Vikings at the 7-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are favored by 6.5 points. So
this is a very, very big game for Minnesota, and really a big game for the Bucs as well. Really big game for that NFC wild card spots. Tampa's run defense is exceptional this year. They're allowing something like 75 yards per game, which is crazy, on the ground, that is. So they're really going to look to stifle Dalvin Cook's productivity, which could be really problematic for Minnesota if the pass game doesn't really open up. However, Kirk Cousins has been playing out of his mind lately, so the Vikings pass offense could very well do some damage to Tampa. However, Tampa here is working off a bye with the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. So some points will almost certainly be scored against Minnesota's only kind of decent defense. I expect a lot of points to go up by Tampa in this game. That's what I'm thinking about this game.
Yeah, so in terms of a fantasy standpoint, Dalvin Cook is in trouble this week with that great Tampa Bay run defense. So this is all something that all fantasy players who had Dalvin Cook knew going into the year. His playoff schedule is rough. So we're really going to see if he is matchup proof going into these next 2 or 3 weeks. And then another player for the Vikings who has been amazing the last few weeks. I believe the only 2 players that lead him in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in the last month are Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. He has been great for Minnesota, even with another receiver, Adam Thielen, who's been also exceptional in the last few weeks. And then against a bad Minnesota defense, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, along with Antonio Brown, that trio of Buccaneers receivers look to get back into their rhythm, win a big game, put them up to 8-5, and pretty much seal that Buccaneers playoff berth with an easy schedule coming up. And then, of course, the GOAT, Tom Brady, he's going to be great this week against a bad Minnesota defense. And so that leads me into my pick. So I am going to take a little bit of a blowout. I think the Minnesota Vikings have no shot at the Buccaneers just because of their bad defense and the Buccaneers just basically having an all-around better team, in my opinion. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers 38-24. Max?
I'm going with a much closer contest here, Sam. I'm going to take Tampa, but I'm only going to take them by 4, 28-24.
Yep, 31-24 Buccaneers for me.
Yeah, the Buccaneers, they've been absolutely explosive against terrible teams, and then they're almost kind of like the Browns. They do very, very well against bad teams or bad defenses, but they don't do so hot against good defenses. So I think this is going to be one of those weeks when they absolutely go off.
All right, next game up, the 4-8 Denver Broncos at the 4-8 Carolina Panthers, favored by a field goal. So what do you guys have?
So I think this is the boring game of the week, or one of them. Both these teams are basically eliminated from the playoff race. I believe Carolina needs to win and have two other teams lose in order to stay in the playoff race whatsoever. So they're basically done for the season. And on the AFC, the Broncos have no shot because the race for those last few wild card spots in the AFC is so tight, and they'd have to, even if they win out, they'd be 8-8, and there's already teams competing for that last playoff spot that only need one or two more wins to even have a better record than that. And especially with that Broncos bad team, they have no shot. So I believe this is going to be a little bit of an ugly game. Both these teams are going to be competing for draft spots. I expect Drew Lock to have quite a decent game against mediocre Carolina defense, middle of the road. And then Matt Rule, he's going to need to do enough to take his depleted roster to a victory here. With, I believe, DJ Moore is out, CMC is out, and I also believe they have a few defensive pieces out in this game.
Yeah, for sure. So from a fantasy perspective, as Sam just said, CMC, Christian McCaffrey, he's going to be out of this game. So Mike Davis, the backup running back, should once again get a pretty hefty workload. Look for him. On the Broncos side, Melvin Gordon, he's been pretty inconsistent all year. Sometimes, he gets like 3 fantasy points. Sometimes he finds the end zone twice, gets 20. So we'll just have to see there. He could have a decent impact against a pretty bad Carolina Panthers defense. From the other side, on the Denver side of the ball, we could see Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick both achieve flex value for sure. Robbie Anderson in that Panthers offense should see a pretty big role with DJ Moore out. So definitely look his way as well.
All right, Max, would you like to give your game pick?
I would love to, Sam. I would love to. I'm going to go ahead and take Carolina. I'm going to take the Panthers 26-20.
That is a good choice, Max. I am also taking the Panthers 26, but I'm going to give the Broncos another field goal, so 26-23.
I have a little less scoring than you guys, but same result, Panthers 24-17.
All right.
All right, so our next game, the 8-4 Tennessee Titans at the 1-11 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Titans are favored by 7.5 points. So what do you guys think of it?
So personally, I think this could possibly get pretty ugly in Tennessee's favor. The Titans are coming off a pretty big loss to a very legit Cleveland Browns team, by the way, and they're going to need a bounce back. So the 1-win Jaguars are really the perfect candidate for that bounce back. Really, we don't even know anymore if the Jaguars are trying to win games or just tanking. I could really see it either way. So
I think they're tanking.
It's very possible.
If they weren't taking, they should not bench Gardner Minshew. He's way better than Mike Glennon, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I agree with you there. I like Minshew better. I think a ground and pound type of offense is going to be what both these teams kind of try to go for. Derrick Henry and James Robinson, of course, have been phenomenal this year. Personally, I think that Tennessee will do a better job of it, and I think that that's going to cause them to put up quite a few points in this one. I'm going to expect a pretty ugly game here.
Yeah, I agree with you, Max. So both these teams' running backs are must starts. James Robinson, obviously, we saw what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt were able to do against Tennessee the other week. I think James Robinson is going to be able to replicate it, but his team around him isn't going to be able to do as much as what the Browns did. And then, obviously, Derrick Henry, all the fantasy owners who have Derrick Henry, Andrew, we're very excited to have his easy playoff matchups, despite the fact that you missed the playoffs because you're trash.
I know.
And then Corey Davis, he was coming off a huge game, and he should deliver wide receiver 2 numbers again alongside Titans' number 1 wide receiver, A.J. Brown. And then if you need a tight end to stream, look out for Tyler Eifert if he is healthy, and then who has become one of Mike Glennon's favorite targets in the Jaguars offense. And I totally agree with you, Max. I'm going to have a little bit of a blowout, though. I'm going to keep it I think the Titans are going to win by a fair margin, but I think the Jaguars are going to be able to get back in it. They've been in a lot of close games, especially against really good teams over the course of the year. So I think it's going to be Titans 30-21.
Yeah, I'm taking a little more scoring from Tennessee. I'm taking them by 2 touchdowns, 35-21.
Yep, I'm going Titans 28-24. Sam, I'm not trash. Eric Ebron just dropped too many passes 2 weeks ago. I was so close, but
Andrew, I got a question for you. What
All
is
right.
your prediction for Derrick Henry's stats this week?
Derrick Henry's stats. I'm going to go 170 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns again.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
What is that, like, what?
38 fantasy points.
35 fantasy points.
Yep, that's how it's going to go.
All right. We'll see. We'll see if that prediction holds up. All right. So here is our next game.
All right. Our next game, the Indianapolis Colts at the Las Vegas Raiders. Colts favored by a field goal. So what do you guys think?
So despite the fact that this game has significant playoff implications, I'm not very excited about it. I think these teams, they have very lingering weaknesses, glaring weaknesses, actually. So the glaring weakness of the Colts is their offense, and the glaring weakness of the Raiders is their defense. So what I'm excited to see is the matchup between the Raiders offense and the Colts defense. I feel like whoever wins that battle is going to win that game, though the other two sides of the ball have to perform for them to win as well. So the Raiders, they need to step up their defensive game. I believe the Jets scored 32 or 30 against them last week, which is absolutely pathetic considering that Jets offense. And then the game before that, 44 points against the Atlanta Falcons. And then I believe this should have quite the substantial playoff implications. I think the Colts might be able to knock out the Raiders out of this playoff race if the Raiders are to lose this next game or this game.
Yep, so now moving on to a fantasy perspective. Personally, we think that Darren Waller, even though he's a tight end, is really the best receiver in this entire game. So Darren Waller is obviously lock it in, must-start tight end. He's been amazing. He just came off a 45-point explosion. Jonathan Taylor for the Colts could be a solid flex option as well. He did very well last week. If Josh Jacobs plays, of course, start him. If not, Devontae Booker could actually deliver some decent production for the Raiders. So that's your kind of fantasy update for this game. And then I'll just go ahead and get right into my game pick here. I'm going to take the Colts in this one by a pretty wide margin. I'm going to take them 28-14. I don't really like the Raiders that much personally.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are on a downward trend. I believe the Colts are going to win this game by, like you said, a pretty fair margin. I'm going 31-20. Indianapolis.
Yep, the Raiders almost lost to the Jets, which means they are garbage, and that's why the Colts are going to win 24-21.
All right.
So our next game, the winless New York Jets, and the 8-4 Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks favored by almost 2 touchdowns, 13.5 points. So what do you guys think?
Max, you mind if I take this one over? You know how I
Yeah,
love talking about the
I'll
Jets.
just give you the Jets. I'll give them to you.
So the Jets aren't even my favorite team. I just like trashing them. And especially with their coaching, Adam Gase, like I said, we all know how I feel about him at this point, how I trash him in every single video. He's one of the worst coaches I've ever seen. Who runs cover 0 with 7 seconds left in the game? That's such
Well, he doesn't call the defensive plays, Sam. That's not his fault.
Well, their defensive coordinator needs to be fired as well then.
He did get fired.
Well, yeah, he did. I don't understand why they didn't fire Adam Gase as well. I mean, they had a great opportunity to win that game. They were on I believe the 40-yard line, and they just gave it all away. But also, that is the head coach's job to say, hey,
that's true.
Why are you running this? Because every single play should go through the head coach. I mean, they do have those mics on the field, so they are communicating, and he probably had to approve that play, especially in that late in the game.
True.
And so I think we can all agree the Jets, they have no capability in keeping up with the Seahawks offense. But their defense has not played too bad over the last few games. The Raiders have a pretty good offense, which is why there's so much scoring in the last game. But their defense is a little bit better than their offense, in my opinion. I think with the addition of Sam Darnold back in the lineup, they have played much better than they did under Joe Flacco, because Sam Darnold is a little bit more familiar with that Jets offense.
Yep. From a fantasy perspective, look the way of what was once a very terrible Seahawks defense. They could actually be a very good play because everybody's a good play against the Jets. I know Andrew even started the Raiders against the Jets last week. And if you ever start the Raiders in fantasy, man, they must have a pretty bad matchup. So
yeah, you know something's going on.
Yeah, for real. So DST for the Seahawks, definitely an option. Chris Carson is an excellent running back option for the Seahawks. And the usual Seattle suspects should have very solid games. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Russell Wilson, of course. Very good options. On the New York Jets side, Jamison Crowder is looking very doubtful. So, obviously, we had him as someone you might want to start. Obviously, that's not going to be an option anymore. That said, Ty Johnson, if Frank Gore remains out, which he looks like he will, Ty Johnson could have a very serious workload, which last time helped him out quite a bit. So,
all right, Max, would you like to give us your game pick?
Yeah, I'm taking a route, as I'm sure everybody expected. Seattle 31-13. As you guys can see, Sam is always laughing about the Jets. So.
We literally had to pause the recording because Sam just could not stop laughing about the Jets.
So my prediction is a little bit blasphemous. I'm going with the Seahawks 34-0. I don't think the Jets are going to put up a single point. And that is just absolutely hilarious to me. Oh, my God.
I don't think that's possible, no matter how bad they are. I have the Seahawks 28-17.
Well, we saw 2 weeks ago, I believe, with the Chargers losing 45-0. So in this game is worse. So it's possible. Anything's possible if it's to the Jets.
True. And I picked the Chargers in that game. So
the Jets could have negative points this week for all we know.
All right, we got to move on from the Jets.
All right.
Oh, Andrew, what is your pick for this week?
I just gave it to you, Sam. My pick is 28-17 Seahawks.
This is almost as much of a disaster as the Jets.
He just can't focus.
All right, moving on.
All right, next we have the 10-2 Saints at the 3-8-1 Philadelphia Eagles. Saints favored by 7.5 points.
Yeah, so the big thing here is the quarterback situation in Philly. An entertaining new chapter here is Jalen Hurts is finally given the start. We hate Carson Wentz on this show almost as much as we hate the Jets. So Carson Wentz has been benched, which is great. I think Jalen Hurts could really do some wonder for that Philadelphia offense. However, I don't think this is the game for it. The Saints have a very stout defense, and against a rookie passer, that could provide them with lots of problems throughout the contest. The Saints offense really hasn't put up a ton of points lately, but I don't think it's really going to matter against a pretty lackluster Eagles team that's never really gotten going at all this year. So that's why I'm really thinking that New Orleans is going to win pretty handily here personally.
Yeah, I agree with you, Max. So on the Eagles, you should probably be wary of almost every single player. I wouldn't start any of them, to be honest. The only ones that have any little value are Travis Fulgham and Jalen Reagor, who are low-end flexes. So Drew Brees is possibly back, but we're not too sure. So Taysom Hill is most likely the starter, and he should be a starter in deeper leagues. As we've seen that he is excellent running the ball. He's gotten quite a few rushing touchdowns in the last couple games. And once again, Kamara is looking to have another strong outing after having a few bust weeks. And Michael Thomas, this is a game for him to officially cement his return and become that great receiver that we all saw last year, being one of the top ones in the NFL. And then that leads me to my pick for this week. I'm going to take the Saints 23-16. The Saints have been in ugly games the last few weeks, and I think it's going to be another one.
I'm going to go ahead and take New Orleans here 25-13.
Yep, I don't think this is going to be a good game. I'm going Saints 28-12. I have a question for you guys. How many turnovers do you think Carson Wentz is going to have this game?
Well, he's not playing, so 0.
Oh, see?
Finally.
So that's an improvement.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if he was, hypothetical situation, if he was playing,
Yeah, that's
3. Yeah, I agree with you, Max. 3. 2 interception and a fumble would be my prediction. All right. So moving on.
all right. Next, we have the 9-3 Green Bay Packers at the 5-7 Detroit Lions. Green Bay favored by 7.5 points.
All right. So this game is going to get ugly with so many Lions players out on offense and defense. Matthew Stafford is questionable. If he doesn't play, expect an absolute destroying of the Detroit Lions. So with that terrible Lions defense, Aaron Rodgers looks to again pick up steam with his great duo between Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. This is going to get out of hand early, and we could see Green Bay putting up 30-plus minimum if Detroit is unable to stop the passing game for Green Bay.
Yeah, for sure. So, of course, as Sam really just alluded to, Green Bay's offensive weapons are top-tier fantasy options this week. Of course, Aaron Jones especially, because Detroit is always bad against the run, very, very bad against the run. Detroit, their players are a little more interesting. Adrian Peterson has done very well lately. Kerryon Johnson has as well, because both of them have been subbing in for DeAndre Swift, and he's still questionable. So they could both see flex value if Swift is still out. TJ Hawkinson has also been one of the top fantasy tight ends in the game. And with Galladay out, despite this tough matchup, I still think TJ Hawkinson can deliver some pretty good numbers, as he's one of Detroit's top receiving options.
Also look out for Marvin Jones Jr.
Very true. Very true.
All right, Max, would you like to give your pick?
I would. 35-18 Packers.
Same here. I believe it's going to be 42-28. I feel like the Lions still can put up some points if Matthew Stafford plays.
This is another game I would not waste my time watching. I think it's going to be a blowout, 31-17 Packers.
All right.
All right, next we have the 4-8 Atlanta Falcons at the 3-9 Los Angeles Chargers. Falcons favored by 2.5 points. So,
how about those Chargers last week?
I know.
Worst loss in franchise history, 45-0. Terrible defense, terrible offense, terrible special teams, total coaching disaster. And personally, I see that losing streak continuing here as the Falcons seem to be seeing a little bit of end-of-season improvement. The offense seems to be humming. They're getting points on the board. That being said, Julio Jones is not going to be part of that this week, so that could be a little bit problematic. On the Chargers side, rookie passer Justin Herbert is probably going to be able to find some holes in that porous Atlanta pass defense. But personally, I just think that the Chargers won't be able to keep pace. And honestly, I think that Anthony Lynn is going to be outcoached yet again by an interim head coach in Raheem Morris.
Yeah, so this game has significant fantasy value, though. There are a lot of players on both sides, Atlanta and LA, that have significant fantasy value because both defenses are so terrible. So Calvin Ridley, he's probably the number one option in this game. With Julio Jones out, he is going to get a ton of options. And if you're in dire need of a wide receiver, Russell Gage could also be a possible starter for the flex position. And then at tight end, Hayden Hurst is going to be a solid starter as he is finally back from his injury. And then Justin Herbert on the Chargers, he should be in for a bounce-back game after that terrible performance against the Patriots. And then Austin Eckler, once again, he has had some trouble running the ball, and I feel like he's going to finally pick up steam again against a bad Atlanta Falcons run defense. And he should be, as well as be very active in the receiving game, which is his probably, I'd say, his specialty, if you will. He gets tons of targets. Justin Herbert loves to find him out of the backfield. And then Hunter Henry, of course, is probably a must start at the tight end position in most leagues.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get into my game pick here. I still think that the Chargers aren't going to be able to do much in this game. I'm going to take Atlanta 28-17.
Yeah, I agree with you, Max. I'm going Atlanta 28-24.
Max doesn't think the Chargers can do very much. I don't think they can do hardly anything. So I'm gonna have them losing 21-6 to the Falcons.
All right.
All right. The next game, the 5-7 Washington football team at the 5-7 San Francisco 49ers, who are favored by a field goal. So what do you guys have?
Yeah. So honestly, I think this is, despite the fact that these teams are 5-7 each, this is going to be a fun game to watch. So the football team have been on a great hot streak. The last couple of weeks, they are 3-0 in their last 3 contests, though they're missing their big star running back, Antonio Gibson. So this is going to hurt them significantly, but they do have solid backups for this week. And then expect a competitive game, a defensive battle for sure. The 49ers and the football team's defense have been very, very well coached throughout the course of this season. Both teams have a great front seven, and that's what you really need to watch out for. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I think Washington's a little bit better, and because of how they've played the last few games and that they're looking for a playoff spot, I believe they're going to have a little bit more will in them, and I think they will come out with a dub today or tomorrow.
I agree with you there. So for fantasy players to watch, Peyton Barber and J.D. McKissick, both running backs for Washington, that could see some serious usage with Antonio Gibson sideline. Of course, also you're starting Terry McLaurin, the only notable Washington receiver with confidence, and also Logan Thomas after that big game is definitely a tight end option. If he isn't rostered in your league, definitely give him a look. For the San Francisco side, receiver Brandon Ayuk has been looking at solid production for the last couple of weeks. I think he's gone pretty much under the radar for me at least. I looked at his numbers. He's been doing pretty good. So look his way, along with, of course, Deebo Samuel.
All right. So for my pick this week, I have the Washington football team winning 27-17 in a gritty game.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. This, as it says on the screen, is my upset of the week. I'm taking the Washington football team 21-14.
Yep, I think Washington's going to keep the streak going. I have the football team 24-20.
Yeah, this if both the Giants and the football team win, this NFC East, the division that we thought was going to be boring all year, it's going to get pretty interesting, I'd say.
I'm with you.
All right.
All right. Next, we have the STV Sports Game of the Week. We have the 11-1 Pittsburgh Steelers at the 9-3 Buffalo Bills, who are surprisingly to me favored by a field goal in this one. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one. This, I think, is going to be a very fun game to watch. It has got a lot of impact on playoff seeding, of course. Both these teams are definitely looking for those top seeds in the American Football Conference. The Bills' high-flying offense is going to face off against a very lethal Pittsburgh defense, strength versus strength there. I think the Bills have been struggling to defend the run a little bit, which if you had to give me a weakness for them, that would be it. However, Pittsburgh doesn't really run the ball at all. That's their weakness, is the offensive ground game. So we won't really have to watch either of those teams struggle with that category of the game. I think both of these coaches, Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott, have done great things with their teams in the last few years. And it's all culminating here. They're both in prime position to do well in the playoffs. So expect a very close, very exciting contest in this one.
Yeah. So this might be one of the only weeks where you'll see the Steelers' defensive special teams as not a great option. Buffalo Bills have, I'd say, a top 3 or 4 offense in the NFL this year, led by Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, who are great fantasy plays this week, as well as Cole Beasley. I know that's your man, Max.
Yes.
He's been playing like a stud the last month or so. He is definitely a great option for flex or a wide receiver too if you're in dire need of a worse receiver, especially because wide receiver 2 on the Bills, John Brown has been on IR. And then for Pittsburgh, James Conner is back, and he should definitely be a starter for most leagues against that bad Buffalo run defense. And then for Steelers, all 3 of their trio of wide receivers, Juju Smith, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson, are all good options, but you always run the risk of having one of those players having a dud. They kind of just rotate throughout the carousel, and it depends on the week. But in my opinion, I'd say Deontay Johnson is the best option against the Bills this week. And then on the tight end position, Eric Ebron is kind of a scary option, as we have learned by what has happened to Andrew in the last week. My man, he's a red zone target. He'll get you those touchdowns, but he is a drop machine. So watch out for that.
Yeah, so this week I'm going to have a very close game for my game pick. I'm going the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to take them actually 28-27.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Bills in what they've been doing. I think this is going to be their coming out party. I'm taking the Bills 31-17.
Yep, the Steelers coming off of that surprising loss. I just don't trust them anymore against a team as good as the Bills. So I have the Bills 38-27.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is our Monday night game. We have the 7-5 Ravens at the 9-3 Browns. The Browns favored by 2.5 points. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, so I believe this is going to be a huge game for the Browns. So if they lose this game, the Ravens, what are they? Are they 7-6 or they're 7-6?
Yeah, 7-6.
They're 7-6
that's my
right
bad.
now.
They're 7-6.
Yeah, they're 7-6 right now. And if the Browns win this game, they go up to 10-3, and I'm pretty sure guaranteeing themselves a playoff spot in the AFC. So this is going to be an intense division matchup. Both teams have similar styles of play, ground and pound, use their great running backs. They both have quarterbacks that have been having some inconsistency issues in Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield. The Ravens defense, usually a great option. They have not so much of a good play this week because the Browns have been great offensively the last few years. Baker Mayfield, I believe he hasn't thrown a pick in 20-plus quarters, I believe. He's been pretty great the last few weeks. And then the Ravens, they're going up against a banged-up Browns secondary, which really won't help them too much because of how bad the Ravens have been in the passing game throughout the course of this year.
Yeah, for sure. So actually both of those secondaries are pretty banged up, so that'll be an interesting game to watch, I think. On the Browns side of the ball for fantasy, obviously Nick Chubb is an RB1. Maybe be careful about Kareem Hunt, though. His production has dropped off a lot. Baltimore is pretty stingy against the run at times, so be careful there. For the Ravens, Lamar Jackson seems to be bouncing back a little bit. He hasn't been great throwing the ball lately, but of course he's a good play. J.K. Dobbins has been actually a pretty solid flex lately. I know Andrew's been happy about that. Rookie running back out of Ohio State. So he's been pretty good. And Mark Andrews, the tight end, is returning this week, and he has a great matchup against the second worst defense for fantasy tight ends this year. So definitely look for him as well. For my game pick for this final Monday night matchup, I just want to first say to all the Browns fans out there, I was wrong about the Browns last week. I said they were going to get crushed by the Titans, and of course they did not. So this time I'm going to redeem myself a little bit and go ahead and pick Cleveland 24-21.
Yeah, and despite the line, this is also my upset of the week. I have the Browns winning 35-20. I think they are the real deal this year with that great offense. They're just an overall solid team, and I think the Ravens have been kind of on a slump, and I think they're going to continue that.
Yep. It actually really surprises me that the Ravens are favored in this one by the line. So I'm going Browns 24-17.
Yeah, the NFL really and the sportsbook odds haven't really been introduced to the new Browns yet, I guess. They're not used to it, so they're going to keep them not favored as long as possible. All right. So that was our last game of the week. So thank you so much for watching our weekly STB Sports show. This was our Week 14 rundown. Make sure to comment down below whether or not we picked your team to win. Make sure to like, subscribe, and have a great day. Peace.
Bye, guys.